Hello, and welcome to Recovery Rising with Kelly and Reva, a podcast dedicated to exploring the journey of eating disorder recovery through real stories, advocacy, and awareness.
I'm Reva Van Vliet.
And I'm Kelly.
And this episode, we're really just going to start off by introducing ourselves, our stories, and the why behind Recovery Rising. We first want to take just a moment to say that we're not medical professionals. We are just two people with lived experiences, and advocacy and awareness is just really on our hearts. So if you or a loved one is experiencing an eating disorder, please reach out to a medical professional who specializes in eating disorders, and we'll also make sure to include resources along the way as well.
Well, I'm happy that we're finally doing this. I know This is something that we've wanted to do for a very long time. And like you said, it's our lived experience that we want to share with people that will bring hope and inspiration as you go through that journey. You are a loved one. I know we have our own stories that we want to share. I know for me, my recovery journey, my anorexia started when I was about 19, so I was a freshman in college. It actually went from anorexia and then bulimia, and then I became a purging anorexic. And yes, it was just for 6 years, outpatient just wasn't enough to get me through this. So this is something that I've always wanted to do, talk about my journey, what I've learned, and just really let people know that recovery is not linear. I know we both have had the experience of going through residential treatment, which I think was the life-changing experience and treatment that I needed. I really do advocate for, if there's the opportunity to do that residential treatment, I really do encourage it, because you have that 24-hour support. A lot of places now take that holistic approach, which is something I can't put a price tag on, because it wasn't just the refeeding process and putting weight back on. It was really treating the whole person. So I would say, somebody just asked me the other day, how long have you been in recovery? And how we define recovery is going to vary from person to person.
Exactly.
So for me, I tell them it's been a little bit more than 10 years, because again, you have to focus on not just the body part, but the mental and how you feel about yourself. So I've had the opportunity to talk about my recovery story in public settings, and it's just incredible. I swear at least one person every time says my daughter or my best friend has been affected by an eating disorder. So that's why I think sharing our stories is so important. And like we said, recovery is not linear, so don't beat yourself up if you think it's supposed to be that way, because it's not. It does take time, but it's worth it at the end to see the person that you become. So
absolutely, yeah. And I know we both say eating disorders are serious mental and physical health conditions, because they really do impact the whole person, and they are so complex. And like you said, recovery isn't so easily defined. It's just different for each person. And that's why it's so important to have those resources, that team, those supports with you. And it impacts all people, all genders, races, everybody.
Yes. Yep.
So, and my eating disorder journey has been eating disorder recovery journey hasn't been linear. I started struggling with body image issues early on in my adolescence, and then leading up to my eating disorder diagnosis when I was 14. And I really struggled throughout high school, and kind of in and out of outpatient, inpatient, and residential treatment. And like you said, it's just there's mental health issues. That eating disorder is a mental health issue, but there's other co-occurring mental health illnesses that go along with it. So I really struggled with anxiety and just really feeling, I'm trying not to cry, but I guess that's why we're here. But just a feeling of just never being good enough, and shame. And I think that shame has played a huge part in my eating disorder. And that's, again, why it's been so important for me to address that in a treatment setting. And just really calling that out, because my eating disorder really took advantage of that feeling of shame and really kept me stuck from, as a kid to adulthood. So, and, I've had periods of recovery, and most recently struggled just a few years ago, as a mom. And that really kind of caught me off guard, because I had been in recovery, but had some life changes, and my eating disorder struggles just really came up again. So
yeah. It's interesting you brought up the shame piece, because I remember I used to refer to guilt and shame as my twin demons, because I felt like that's what fueled the eating disorder, not only to fester, but just to continue on. It's like that was the barrier to moving forward in treatment. It was just that just was like obviously the eating disorder is the coping mechanism to deal with those feelings.
Yes.
So yeah, getting past that guilt and shame was definitely a hill to get over.
And
but
only if you can control that, only if you can control yourself, and at the time when I was going through it, it's not as like black and white as if only I control my food intake, or but it becomes that way. And it's just like in your everyday, you're feeling like, if only I do this or change my body, and then you can become compelled to do something. For me, exercise has played a big part in my eating disorder, and I know for that can manifest in many different ways for people struggling with eating disorders. But it's like, if you don't address that guilt or shame, or kind of understand those pieces, it's really hard to move forward. And it's always something, those feelings may be there, but that's just why finding, we all like and I'm sure in residential it's like coping mechanisms.
Yes.
And you can't like always like coping mechanism your way out of eating disorder, but that is like replacing those behaviors with positive behaviors.
Absolutely. Yep. It's the way, I really wasn't taught as a child like how to deal with feelings. And truthfully, I probably only could identify two feelings, guilt and shame. It's like the others didn't know what they really were. So I think, addressing those emotions, and like you said, finding the healthy way to deal with them. They don't disappear.
No.
They're just something we have to learn to manage and deal. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up comorbidity too, because that'll be an episode that we will do in the future, because it's usually just not the eating disorder.
No.
There's usually multiple diagnoses, so which we will get into at one point. But
and many people, our entire society, we at one point or another, we struggle with how we look, worrying about how we look or what we're eating, or feeling like we're not enough. And I think I just really want to stress that an eating disorder, and it may start there, but it is so much more than that. And it's not just a teenage issue. It's not just it's not vain to struggle with an eating disorder. I know, like, especially in my adulthood struggle, I felt really shameful for struggling, because I had a beautiful family, a great job, and I feel like I sabotaged it. But the eating disorder is just so strong and complex, and more complex than worrying about what I'm looking like, or it's just deep rooted in so much more than that. So I just want to mention that too.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you just said that, because somebody asked me just earlier today, did you struggle with your appearance, or did people tease you? And it was actually, no. I was an athlete, so I was actually physically felt good about my body. Again, it was just a way of dealing with things, and it was something I could control. The weight, what I ate, it's like nobody could tell me to do it this way or that way. It was just a way to control the external world in a way. So, but I also like too that you bring up that it is very complex. It's not just about the food, for sure. Yeah, and we'll talk about what the mental health side of it too, and why it's called a mental health disorder and not just, the diet and the weight, and it's just so many layers. And that's, I think, a beautiful thing about us talking about our lived experience. You have the medical side where a doctor could talk about it, or even a mental health professional who specializes in eating disorders for years, but to have somebody that you can talk with that actually knows what it's like, what it goes on in your head. I mean, that's just key core support to be able to talk about it and have somebody understand. Because I know that's really one of the reasons for this podcast.
Yes, it is.
I felt so alone. I was like, who can I talk to about what I'm actually thinking, the thoughts and my behaviors and why they're happening? Because it just felt so lonely. And again, the shame of talking about that.
Exactly.
So this is actually one of the main reasons for us, I know, is because I know we both felt alone as we were going through this struggle. So
and we wanted to create that podcast that, little Kelly and little Reva needed when we were going through it, and even I guess like adult Reva and adult Kelly. So just those voices of like just are sharing our struggle, that struggle is really real. It's a very serious mental health condition, and it's also treatable. It's feels so hopeless, like you said. You feel so alone, and especially in this noisy world of diet culture. And I'm going to step off that soapbox because right away before I get on it, because it's everywhere, just deep rooted. We talk about our weight and appearance like it's the weather, and of course someone struggling with an eating disorder, that's just really hard to be faced with when you're in recovery or trying to get into a place of recovery. So I just like when Kelly came to me that day, I still remember it. You were like popped into my office, and I was just like, yes, because there are so many voices of recovery out there, and still not enough.
Right. Agreed.
And we're not professionals, but
no.
I think just like having these real conversations and still get like shaky and just like, but it's just, I know we both hold it really dear to our hearts. So
because like you said, as recovery didn't even seem possible at this points through this. It just seemed like so far off. It's not attainable. I'm too far gone. I had those thoughts. And I remember too, and you probably experienced this as well, recovery voices at one point in time were people talking about their behaviors and like really going into deep detail. And it was almost like, I'm getting tips here. And we had talked about, when we do this is just going to be purely recovery focused. We aren't going to talk about those, what we did and what we didn't do. Because I know that was a big part of people talking about it was
and I'm so glad you said that, because I mean, even coming on here today, it's like we want to share our stories, and we want to be authentic, and we want to be transparent. And this space, it's also really important, like you said, to leave some of those pieces out, like we're not going to talk about numbers or weight or behaviors in depth, like high level. This is how we'll talk about at the end of this episode, kind of overview of types of eating disorders, because there are so many. It shows up so many different ways. But especially in the early, like we've been in this space for many years, and it is just it's a messy space. You'll see on Instagram, just unfortunately. So we just want to be those kind of positive voices.
And again, maybe feel like as you're watching this or listening to this is something you can relate to, and just feel good about that. Like we said, recovery is absolutely possible and worth celebrating. So and I know you mentioned there's lots of types of eating disorders out there, and that is very true. There's some that are in the DSM, and there's some that are not. So we have eating disorders and disordered eating, but we also thought too, we could maybe just go through some of those different types of eating disorders. And like I said, there's going to be more than probably what we covered today. So
yes. And again, we're not medical professionals, but we don't want you to feel alone or like, well, I don't fit that. Or,
Right.
like Reva and Kelly struggled with this, and I don't know how to relate to that. But it's really characterized by those just really incessant thoughts about food and self-image and body image, and feeling really compelled to change your shape or your eating habits. And no matter how it shows up, or again, like who you are, how you look, or how you identify, it's really just characterized by those kind of incessant thoughts. And
yes.
Can show up different ways. So we mentioned anorexia, bulimia nervosa, ARFID, so that's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. We're not going to like explain all of these here today, I guess, unless you think it might be helpful. But
I mean, there's anorexia, like you said, and I feel like that's a term that people probably understand.
Yes.
Bulimia, the same. It's you consume a lot of food and you just find a way to purge it out. And like Reva said, there's different ways that can you can expel those calories. And then anorexia is the restrictive type. But ARFID is maybe one that people maybe aren't too familiar with. But the way I know it's been explained to me, the avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, it's more of like a disturbance in normal eating patterns. It's not necessarily about trying to lose weight, but it's just more than picky eating for sure.
Exactly, sensory kind of focused. And of course there's orthorexia, so just kind of healthy eating to the extreme. So very focused on eating healthy, clean foods. And again, this is very high level, and we're not the DSM, but and then purging disorder. So like Kelly said, that can come out in many different ways. And then binge eating disorder and exercise addiction, as I mentioned. And all of these, like, again, they can be intertwined with each other. So
absolutely.
It's not,
And as Reva said, really the main common denominator, if you want to call it that, is just that it's so intrusive and it disrupts your life, whether it's thinking about food or food, calories, the weight, whatever it is, but it's just so intrusive and so obsessive. I mean, it just totally takes up your day. I mean, that's obviously when it gets to that eating disorder level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have struggled with an eating disorder or any of these thoughts or any of these behaviors for a year or years. As soon as you feel disturbed, or just like you're really struggling with these thoughts and behaviors, seek help. I mean, it's never too early. And unfortunately, in the eating disorder world, it's this idea of like not being sick enough or not needing that help enough. And it just, you deserve that help anytime. And it's never too early.
Yeah. And we talked about this the other day, is that it does not take much for just even the littlest behaviors to snowball into a full-fledged eating disorder. I remember it was like a week of just starting, these behaviors. And I was like, something totally shifted in me. And then from there, I know just even a few months into it, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate it. And I just could not stop. So early intervention is absolute key. So if you find yourself thinking things or doing behaviors that are not, part of the healthy eating, please just talk to somebody, especially like we have said, a mental health professional, having that conversation in a safe space. So
and specialized in eating disorders, because it's, again, a very complex thing to deal with on your own. And so
and I like that you said that, not on your own.
Exactly. Because
it's a team.
Exactly, especially when you're dealing with those thoughts of like shame and guilt, and you don't want to be a burden, and it's like no, you deserve and need that help. Eating disorders, like any mental health condition or physical health condition, require a specialized team, and you deserve that, and you can't do it alone.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And even that like emotional support. So yes, you'll have your your team of professionals, but also the family, the friends, opening up and just knowing that they're there to support you. And that will actually be another topic we talk about. Somebody that you care about has an eating disorder. How can you be helpful? How can you be that good listener and support too? Because that's a key role as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just really looking forward to being on this journey with you, Kelly, and
me too.
everybody else that hopefully listens to us. And if we can be just like a tiny little part of your healing journey and just offering that hope. And even if you're somebody that is just trying to understand how to support their community or someone they love, we're just really glad you're here with us.
Yes. More to come.
Yes.
A great lineup for you. So
absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Tune in next week for another episode of Recovery Rising with Kelly and Reva. Each episode offers encouragement, insight, and hope for anyone on this path.
With honesty and compassion, Recovery Rising is here to remind you that recovery is not only possible, but worth celebrating.